Hare Krishna. So it's very heartening for me to start Bhagavad Gita again, and that is for. You can carry on. You can carry on. So we will be rediscussing in English because we have been discussing in Hindi and twice at least, but English we have not done. So we'll discuss it again. And this time, as we are doing in Hindi, we'll be also including the Anvay, etc., so that we can have a better understanding of Bhagavad Gita. So first we're going to start with the introduction of Bhagavad Gita as given by Srila Prabhupada, and we'll try to understand line by line, and slowly we're going to understand as we move forward. So this is the first shloka which Prabhupada quotes in the introduction, and this is a part of Mangalacharan. Mangal Acharan. Mangal means auspiciousness and Acharan means invocation. So why Mangalacharan is done, that has to be understood. Vigna Shreyansi Bahu Vignani. It is explained like this, that when a person begins a great task, very, very big, very, very many difficulties will come, especially on the path of bhakti. So the acharyas have taught us to seek the mercy of previous acharyas, and in that way, acharyas, Lord Shri Krishna, that means the mercy of Guru and Krishna is invoked, so that the difficulties which might come in the execution of an very auspicious task will become vanquished. So I hope this is clear. So in that Mangalacharan, first this shloka seeks the mercy of the spiritual master, and it also acknowledges what is the mercy of the spiritual master. So I will chant Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. I'll read the translation. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. And my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, let us try to understand each and every word of this shloka. Om is invocation of Lord Shri Krishna's holy name. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita 8th chapter, Pranavaha Sarva Vedeshu. I am Om, the syllable Om in all the Vedas. So whenever you see Om, it indicates the sound representative of Lord Krishna. Okay. Agyan Timir Andhasya. Agyan means ignorance. Agyan basically means lack of knowledge. And Timir Andhasya. Timir means extreme. You can say we was complete darkness of knowledge, of ignorance. Now we must understand what does that means. Ignorance of who we actually are. Every one of us, as we wake up, we have a sense of identity. I am a girl, I am a man, I am a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or any conception. I am a businessman or anything. And based on that, we act. And we must understand that it is actually true. Before we go forward, I hope devotees can pick this point that we don't know who we are. We identify with our bodies, which are constantly changing. And in that way, we continue to do activities which will make us more conscious that we are only this body. This is very interesting. So, how this ignorance is destroyed? So, next part is mentioned. Gyan Anjan Shalakaya. Gyan means knowledge of who we are, spirit soul. Anjan means a kind of ointment. Just like when we have trouble with our eyes, then we apply ointment and our eyes become restored in their vision. And Shalakaya. Shalaka is very interesting. Shalaka is a device by which the ointment is applied on the eyes. So the spiritual master gives knowledge to the disciple who is in ignorance of his spiritual nature by applying the ointment of knowledge through the shalaka, through the instrument of through the instrument he applies knowledge the ointment of knowledge on the darkened eyes of the disciple. And in that way, chakshur unmilitam yena. See, milit in the word Sanskrit means closed, and unmilit means open. Chakshu means eyes. So, by this ointment of knowledge, my eyes have become opened. Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. So, I pay my obeisances to such spiritual master. This is very important. People do not know why to approach the spiritual master. People think that the spiritual master must be approached so that their material conditions can be improved and they can gratify their senses more so that they can become further entangled in ignorance. This itself is ignorance. So one should approach spiritual master to gain spiritual knowledge, and that happens when the spiritual master speaks. It's not that the spiritual master will show some magic by some rays will come from his hand and then you will become enlightened. It does not matter. It does not work like that. Srila Prabhupada was very heavy. He is in conversation with some devotees and he refers to one other person. He says, if this person does not want to come to classes and learn the science of Krishna consciousness, why is he living with us? You are able to understand this point. Prabhupada, it's very simple. We get knowledge by hearing. So the spiritual master, any spiritual master will speak the truth as given by the original spiritual master, Lord Sri Krishna, and by hearing it, the disciples' ignorance goes away. By hearing it, the disciples' ignorance will go away. By hearing it, the disciples' ignorance will go away. Now, many times people will ask a question: how do I know that my spiritual master is bona fide spiritual master? Well, we have a doctor here, Dr. Ria. So, I don't know which stream you are in, in medical profession, but once I see your degree, MBBS, and then suppose, I don't know, if you can cure me, but suppose if you cure me through a proper medicine, you understand, I think you understand the word called medical procedure. I think you very clearly understand what does that mean. There is a specific disease and there is a specific procedure by which that disease is cured. There is no speculation there. So that medical procedure is not created by doctors. It has taught to the doctors and practiced by the bona fide doctors to cure the disease. I think it's clear. Similarly, the spiritual master is not a spiritual master on his own strength. He will prescribe a proper procedure, standard procedure coming from Lord Sri Krishna, by which the ignorance of every disciple has been cured since time immemorial. I think everyone is picking up this point. There is a standard procedure and no spiritual master can give a new procedure. There is no new procedure. The only procedure is Krishna consciousness. So I hope this is how it has to be very clearly understood what does it mean to have a spiritual master and what does it mean to have the mercy of spiritual master. That means if I am receiving the mercy of spiritual master, then I must be coming out of this ignorance of identifying with the body. Before we go forward, I explain a very simple point. How do I know that I am coming out of this ignorance of identifying with the body? Very practical, very practical. You will see in Bhagavad Gita. When we identify with the body, we become excited by the pains and pleasures of the body. Do you agree with this? Can you see this? Oh, a nice pizza. Oh, burnt up rotis. We become elated and excited by the pains and pleasures of this body. This you should note down. If I am identifying with my body, then I will be excited with the pains and pleasures of this body. So, as we hear, we are not the bodies, and from the spiritual master, and as we practice chanting Hare Krishna, hearing Bhagavad Gita, taking prasadam, slowly, we will see in our own heart, we become, how to say, distanced from all the elation and all the sorrow which arises from the body, which is going to arise anyhow. I hope this is getting clear. So now, once we start seeing in our heart that yes, by following the instruction of the spiritual master, I am not getting disturbed by the pains and pleasure of the body, then it means I am progressing towards spiritual realization. So now we'll go forward and try to explain in detail what is this ignorance or agyan. Explanation of agyan. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam 3.12.2. Sasarjagre andhatamishram athatamishramatiकृत महामोहम च मोहम च tamas chagyana vrittayah. It's very interesting. We must understand this agyan or ignorance has been created. It is artificial for us. It's like a arup, or it's like a covering for the living entity. And it has 5 parts that we'll discuss. Translation: Brahma first created the nascent engagements like self deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, the sense of false ownership, and the illusory bodily conception or forgetfulness of one's real identity. It is not clear here, but we'll understand it from the commentary. VCT. Now, VCT means Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. It's a great Gaudiya Vaishnavacharya. At the beginning of the daily creation, that means in the morning of Brahmaji, there is a creation. They make their appearance in various forms, starting with tamas directly from the Brahma. That means this ignorance arises from Brahma, which will cover all the living entity so that they can gratify their senses. Basically, every living entity, conditioned living entity, is conditioned to desire for sense gratification. So, unless I identify with my body, I cannot gratify my senses. This is clear? So, for the living entity to actually enjoy his senses, he must identify with the body. So, now this identification with the body is caused by avidya shakti, and that is created by Brahma. So, it is an artificial imposition on the living entity. So, that's why it can be removed also. Just like I don't do that, but I'm saying if I put a lipstick, so lipstick is an artificial covering. Don't imagine like that. I'm just giving example. So if lipstick is put on my lips or wherever, so it's an artificial covering. You can remove it. It's very, very hopeful, because sometimes people think that we are this in ignorance can never be removed. It's not like that, because it is an artificial covering. Because it's an artificial covering, you can remove it with a real process. I think this is putting the point in place. If there is a real process, you can remove the artificial covering. But if there is artificial process cannot remove artificial covering. I hope this is clear. So let's go forward. But now you may say, Brahmaji is a demigod. Why he is creating ignorance for the living entities by which they are suffering? You see, Brahmaji has been given the task to facilitate the enjoyment of the conditioned living entities, because this universe has been created for 2 purposes: so that the living entities can get enjoyment, and after getting frustrated from this material enjoyment, they can turn towards Krishna. There is no enjoyment in this world. They can realize and then turn towards Krishna. So first thing is first, they want sense gratification. So for that, Brahmaji becomes an instrument of Lord Shri Krishna by providing this avidya shakti. The avidya shakti, or the energy of ignorance, is not Brahmaji's creation, but taking it from the Lord, he creates 5 subsets of it, and then you will see what they are. What are they? Tamas. So tamas means ignorance of the swarupa of the jiva. Tama, omagyan timirandasya. Ta means darkness. I'm not going to do it now, but suppose there is absolute darkness in our room, then I cannot see myself who I am. This is called tamas. Now after this, moha. Moha means the identification of self with the body, etc. Ahamta, or I am this body. So first thing is I forget that I am soul. This is called tamas. And moha means not able to discern truth from untruth. What is untruth, we see as truth. So moha means that I identify with something which I am not. First is tamas, where I forget what I am, and then is moha, where I identify with what I am not. Absolutely identify with what I am not. I am not this body, but I identify with the body. So first I am forgetting that I am soul, and second on that is I see that myself as the body. Then is mahamoh, means did you understand this word ahamta? Ahamta means a sense of I-ness. I am this body. This is called a moh, illusion. Okay. Now what is mahamoh? Mahamoh means applying possessiveness to objects of enjoyment, mamata, or objects of sense gratification are mine. Now why it is called mahamoh? Maha means more. Is it not? We say Murk and Mahamurk. Murk means stupid, and Mahamurk means greater stupid. I think you know these words. So you may question why Mahamoh? First of all, I am not this body. This itself is ignorance. Now, after that, there is further expansion of this ignorance where I consider things around me as mine. Although all the things around me are supplied to me, they were not with me since time immemorial or since beginningless time. They are here for some time. Just like, suppose, it's very simple. Just like when we go to train and we have a berth, BERTH, and then we start identifying with the birth. This is my birth. This is my birth. Is it your birth? Did you create it? No. But for some time we get and we tend to identify that birth. This birth is mine. Now we change it to BIRTH. You're intelligent devotees. You understand what I'm trying to say? Identifying with the birth. BIRTH. This is my birth. This is my wife, this is my children, like that. So when I am not this body, then how things related with this body can be mine? So will it not be called more stupidity? First stupidity is that I identify with my body, and then maha stupidity is that I identify with the things which are around me as mine. So what you have to understand, the spiritual master tells that you are servant of Krishna, and everything around you is the property of Krishna and should use it for Krishna's service. And in that way, the root Mahamo or Moh becomes dispelled. It's clear? Whatever you are not able to understand, you can, chat is open for me. You can ask questions, no problem. I hope this is clear. If you confirm, Dr. Ria, that whenever a person comes to you, hopefully you must be first sending them for diagnosis. Go for this report, that report, this report. So that from the diagnosis, the patient becomes convinced that of the depth of his disease, and then he does not question, why are you giving me medicine? Just imagine, Dr. Ria, I'm asking this question from you. Suppose you start feeding pills, you understand this, all this, what is it, with all due respect, these allopathic pills, I mean, they are not very tasty, is it not? They're not rasgulla. Is it rasgulla? It doesn't look like rasgulla, it tastes like rasgulla. Now, if somebody starts forcing you with these pills, then you will revolt. Why this person is giving me, they're forcing me to give this ill-tasting pills. But once a person understands the diagnosis of his disease, then he himself takes the prescribed medicine. So we are understanding our disease, how much we are in ignorance. So then we will be enthused to take the medicine of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So now we will go forward. Now then, 2 we have discussed, no? So 3. And then next is Tamishra, means the appearance of anger within the mental functions when one's enjoyment is obstructed. What does it happen? What does it mean? Tamishra means ignorance also. So what has happened is, I have nothing to do with my senses. My eyes are seeing some form. My ears are seeing some or hearing some sound. My tongue is tasting something. I have nothing to do with that. But in my ignorance, I feel I have not received a palatable dish. I have not seen a good form. I have not heard something which is palatable to my ears. And when this happens, I become angry. Basically, in this sense, I am considering myself as center of the universe. I am in center of the universe. Everything should rotate as per my desires. And my dear devotees, this universe is a university where we are being taught that you are not the center of the universe. Things will not move around in this world as per our desires. So this is very interesting that we are not the creators of this world, but we think that we are creators, we are centers, and that is called ignorance. So next, Andatamisra means when those objects of sense enjoyment are destroyed, then one thinks that he is dead. This is called sense of death. This is very nice. Why people are afraid of death? Because at the time of death, whatever we have identified with and whatever we thought will give us pleasure and give us shelter is taken away from us. Because we are attached to sense gratification, So at the time of death, all the objects of sense gratification around us will be snatched away from us, and that's why we are fearful. So there is a sense of death that I, and that's because of that he person is fearful. Now it is very interesting. Krishna, when Mother Devaki was getting married to Vasudev, so uh, she was that they have made a prediction that oh foolish Kans, you have you are so foolish that that this girl will bear a child who will kill you, and you are engaging in a pompous ceremony to marry her. You are such a fool, the demigods told. So he was immediately ready to kill Devaki. So then Vasudevji explains to him, tries to pacify Kansa, that you see, you must understand that in that the body of a person is destined to happen. So you're going to get the body next life anyhow. So why are you doing this sinful activity of killing your own sister during the time of her marriage? So now Kansa might reply, although Kansa does not speak anything, but Acharyas have raised a question. If Kansa would have replied, you see, I will not get the body of king in next life. So you see, just to protect my body of king, I am going to kill my sister. So then Vasudevji explains it further. What a point I'm trying to say is, being in the body of king, a person gets sense gratification. So when a person gets sense gratification, he becomes attached to his body, because body becomes the source of sense gratification, and that's why he becomes fearful of death. Are you able to catch this point? So use a very nice point. By doing bhakti, our desires for sense gratification goes away. So we become fearless. We become fearless. Be mindful of this point. We become fearless by becoming detached from sense gratification. Have you not noticed that in a dream, we are so fearful and we hold on to things we are seeing in the dream? And then, as soon as the dream wakes up, we are absolutely fearless. Our fear in the dream was due to the identification with whatever I was seeing in the dream. Not because of what I was seeing in the dream, but because I was identifying with what I was seeing in the dream. I hope this is getting clear. So as immediately as we come out of the ignorance, all the problems of the dreams are solved. So, and coming out of the dream happens by hearing. Okay. Not present in the jiva, these were created by ignorance or avidya. So why we are highlighting? Because they are created on artificial covering, so they can be removed also. Please hear, my dear devotees, the glories of the holy name. The holy name directly acts on the avidya. One thing I did not mention, as you keep on chanting, the avidya also becomes destroyed. One thing I did not mention at all. What this avidya shakti also does is that it covering our swarupa, it berefts us from the taste of serving Lord Shri Krishna. I'll repeat again. This avidya shakti covers our spiritual nature and removes the taste which we should naturally be having by serving Krishna. That means, actually, when I am saying Krishna now, I should be infinitely happy. But this avidya shakti or ignorance is covering me. That means I am also ignorant of the happiness which I will get by serving Krishna. And that's why we do so many things in this world, trying to get happiness, ignorant of the fact that the highest happiness I'm going to get is by serving Krishna selflessly. I hope this is clear. And again, feel it also. There is a sense of, I explained to you, how do you know that we have avidya? We have a sense of aversion of for not chanting Krishna, a sense of aversion of not hearing katha, a sense of aversion for doing some service. To the degree we have aversion for these things, to that degree we misunderstand that we are still infected by avidya. Just like when a person has fever, he has aversion for food. But that is not his natural state. So when the fever will subside, naturally his taste for relishing food will come up. I think it's very clear. We'll go forward. Vishnu Puran says, now another way of looking at it is explained here now. Vishnu Puran says, tamo viveko moham syad antah karna vibhrama mahamohatsu vigyeyo gramya bhoga sukhaya sana. मरणम ही अंधता मिश्रम तमिश्र क्रोध उच्यते अविद्या पंच परवैश प्रादुर्भूत महात्मनः. Tamas means lack of discrimination. What does it mean? Discrimination means the ability to ascertain truth from untruth. So, what is truth? I am soul and eternal. But tamas means, ignorance means we cannot discriminate that I am this body or I am the soul. Clear? Same points but different angle. Moha means mistaken identity in the mind, that I am not this body, but I am thinking I am this body. Mahamoha means the desire for happiness from material objects. I have nothing to do with sense objects, but but in a conditioned life, we have everything to do with sense objects. This is called Mahamoha, illusion. And Tamishra means anger. Anger which arises by not getting sense object. Have you ever noticed having a sabji which is not as per your taste, and then you can see an anger arises from your heart? Oh, why? Why? That is called Tamishra. Okay. We don't understand that we were destined to eat that sabji or that particular thing on that particular day. Have you noticed in your life? Sometimes we ourselves plan, we'll make it nicely like that. And one time I was cooking and then I forgot to put salt. Whom to blame? Think about this. And when I'm telling this, I will be tested also. I know that. Every time there is something which is not pleasurable according to our senses, we become angry. So slowly, as we become advancing Krishna consciousness, we become indifferent because hear very carefully. You see, as spirit souls, we are always pleasure seeking. So if we don't get pleasure from outside, if we don't get pleasure from inside, we have to seek pleasure from outside. And it's such a difficult proposition, because outside you have no control. How the outside world, what kind of input the outside world will send to us, we have no control. Sometime it will be pleasurable, sometime it will be unpleasurable. So a person who identifies with the body, he must seek the pleasure from outside. Is it getting clear? Before I'm saying this, can you see it? I don't want to explain things only. Can you see this? That before coming to bhakti, we were only seeking pleasure from outside. Going to movies, going to hotel, going this. This has to be seen, and we see, arey kya bore movie thi. So we go to a movie, and then 3 hours is spent, and then afterwards we are not satisfied. We say, this is such a boring thing. Have you not noticed when there's a match between India and Pakistan? So when India loses, I'm not saying that you should watch. Maybe you have experienced when India loses, we become angry. Oh, these are useless people. And when it wins, we become happy. Although we have nothing to do with India, Pakistan, in the sense the match or anything. We are not playing, nothing happens. This is called ignorance. This is called tamishra. Anger arising from frustration in gratifying our senses. And the tamishra means death. These 5 types of ignorance made their appearance from Brahma. Now, in a very interesting way, in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. This is very nice. He puts it in a different way. Avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. Let us understand this. Ignorance means tamas. False identity is moha. Attachment is mahamoha, and repulsion is tamishra, and fear of death is andhatamishra, are 5 types of ignorance. And what it means here. See, avidya means ignorance. That is very clear. Forgetfulness of our identity. Asmita. Asmita means not. Asmita means identifying with something which we are not. It's called moha. And rag means deep attachment, something which will gratify my senses. I have deep attachment. I love kadhi or something like that. I love rice. Whatever. I love jalebis. This kind of deep attachment to sense gratification is called rag. And if you can see the word dvesh means I don't like Karela. Something. A strong sense of hate for certain things. I don't like personally speaking, I like cream color, which is in my background. And I don't like pink color. Some people paint their homes with pink color. I don't like pink color. I think you have can understand with this. Some people, or especially like blue or green, they paint in their homes, especially dark green or something. I'm not saying that the person is bad. I'm saying I don't like those colors. I think you also have some disliking and liking like that. This is called dvesh and abhinivesh. Now, this is very interesting. Abhinivesh means absorption. Absorption in sense gratification. Absorption in sense gratification itself will cause fear of death. This is very clear. Very clear. This is very interesting also. The more we do sense gratification, I must understand what does sense gratification mean. Sense gratification means uh, seeing something with the eyes, hearing something from the ears, smelling something from the nose, tasting something from the tongue, and touching something with the skin. This is essentially the main functions of sense gratification. So when we use senses for our sense gratification, that means let my senses be satisfied. Let my senses be satisfied. I don't care whether Krishna becomes satisfied or not. Let my senses be satisfied. That is called sense gratification. And it's very interesting that by this, we become more identified with the body and we become more fearful. This is a very, it's a science which has to be understood. But right now, like we're discussing Bhagavad Gita, so this is very pleasing to Krishna. So in this way, Krishna becomes satisfied, and when Krishna becomes satisfied, slowly he removes this covering of avidya. And what you will get more pleasure by serving Krishna. And then what he becomes? Then he become more happy. Then he removes avidya more, and then he become more happy. I hope you are able to follow. It's like a chain reaction. When I don't care for Krishna, this avidya covers me more and more. And when I care for Krishna, when I serve Krishna, then I become more and more enlightened. This covering becomes removed, and I become more and more happy in Krishna consciousness. This is a science. This is not some kind of emotional sentiment. I hope this is very clear. Fine. Vishnu Swami has said, Agyana viparyasa bheda bhaya shokah vastutastu avidyaya avarana vikshepa eva dvau dharmau tau eva avidyasmita shabdabhyam agyan viparyasa shabdabhyam chochate. Ignorance of Swarupa, false identity, hatred, fear and lamentation are actually only two functions of avidya, avaran and vikshep. Avaran is called avidya, tamas or agyan, and vikshep is called asmita or moha or viparyasa. Attachment, hatred and fear of death, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh, though they are qualities of the mind, are types of vikshep. Not being as prominent as vikshep, they are included in it. Basically, he says what he is trying to say, I'll explain by this photo. You see, a person is sitting or standing next to this river. So when this person is standing next to the river, you can very easily identify as a man. Clear? But suppose he drowns on this shore itself, and on this side of the shore, then in the next photo you see, you cannot see whose hand is this. Maybe it is a woman's hand, maybe it's a man's hand, we don't know. So the point is, when the person becomes drowned in this you can say near the shore, that is called avidya. He cannot see who he is. But when he's drifted, and it is still easy to pick him up because he is still near the shore, but when he becomes drifted to another shore, and then that is called vikshep, being taken away from our position to something different. I'll clear it again. When I forget who am I, that is one level of ignorance. That is not such a problem. But when I begin to identify with something which I am not, that is different level of ignorance, and that is more dangerous, because then then a person begins to act in a way which is not, and then will further convince him to do act in the way which is thinking. I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, and this and that. And you see, many times people say that bhakti is difficult. No, bhakti is not difficult. The sankalpa for bhakti is difficult because of this identification with the body. People do so many things which are much more difficult than doing bhakti. Just like climbing on Everest. It is much more difficult than chanting 16 rounds. But because they have a sense of identity, oh, by climbing on Everest, I'll be a famous man or something like that, they are ready to do that. Even the Matajis, even the ladies do that. It does not give them anything, but they do that. So these are two kinds of ignorance which are explained here. And then what So we are just covering it with some images. Avidya means avaran, agyan or tamas. It has two sections, and then other is vikshep, moh or asmita, where a person is identifying with something which is not. And that in that vikshep there are three sections: rag, dvesh, and abhinivesh, which means attachment, aversion, and fear of death. So this is ignorance. So what does the spiritual master gives? He gives gyan or knowledge. Now, what does gyan means? This is very nicely explained. This is called sambandha gyan. You must understand that in the Vedas there are three topics: sambandha, abhidheya, and prayojan. So there is no other topic in Vedas. And Bhagavad Gita, being the essence of all Vedas, also talks about this knowledge. What is that? Sambandh Gyan. What is the relationship of Krishna with material nature? What is the relationship of Jiva with the material nature? And what is the relationship of Jiva with Krishna? This is called Sambandh Gyan. There are five topics of Bhagavad Gita. Ishwar, that means the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Jiva means the living entity. Prakriti means the material nature. And time and karma. So this Sambandh Gyans means, or the knowledge of relationship has to be understood in this three context. What is the relationship of living entity with Krishna? The spiritual master tells the living entity is an eternal servant of Krishna. Okay. What is the relationship with Krishna and material nature? Krishna is the supreme controller of material nature. Clear? And what is the relationship of Jiva or the living entity with the material nature? So the living entity is trying, is not material nature, is not matter. We are not matter. But the problem is that we are trying to identify with matter, or we're trying to enjoy matter. So once a person understands that, oh, I am a servant of Krishna, I am not a separate enjoyer of material energy, so then he begins to serve Krishna using material energy. I hope this is very clear. I am using my throat, my voice, my body to serve Krishna. Instead of talking about nonsense, I am trying to talk about Krishna. So in that way, this relationship of the Jiva and Ishwar becomes clear. Now, what is ignorance? The living entity thinks I am an enjoyer of Krishna, of this material nature, and I have nothing to do with Lord. Lord does not exist. So then Ishwar or Krishna becomes removed from this equation. Only living entity remains and material energy remains. So as soon as I have this understanding that I am an enjoyer of material nature and have nothing to do with Krishna, the material nature begins to beat me up. This is a point, and we become more and more covered. So the spiritual master explains this, and all of us are supposed to become a spiritual master. And if somebody wants to hear, he has to be told that you are not this body, you are servant of Krishna, and you please start engaging your senses in serving Krishna. And in that way, slowly, the ignorance of the living entity becomes removed. So this much has to be discussed on this point, and this is how the living entity becomes delivered from ignorance. I don't think there are any questions here, so we'll stop here. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Thank you for giving your time. Hare Krishna. Why living entity wants sense gratification? This is a very good question. Sumedha, Prabhu's name is Sumedha, having high intelligence. You see, this point is very simple. Living entity is Anandamay, full of happiness. So basically, we want happiness 24 hours. Now, because he does not know that I am not this body, so he thinks that I am this body. So the only way you can become happy when we identify with the body is sense gratification. This is very interesting. The only way you can become happy or try to become happy is by sense gratification. So basically, the living entity wants happiness, but because he does not know any other way to become happy except sense gratification, that's why he desires sense gratification. Now, it's very interesting question. Why? Because as devotees, if we want to give up sense gratification, the only way is to serve Krishna. And you must be seeing that how by serving Krishna we are becoming happy. I give one simple example. See, so many people study so many things for hours together. Is this normal to teach for 6 hours, 7 hours, 10 hours? This is normal for outside people. Or at least 4 hours they teach. But it is not considered significant by Lord Sri Krishna. But if suppose somebody gives 3 hours of Bhagavad Gita class per day, or whatever, discusses Bhagavatam or something like that, then devotees and even Lord Shri Krishna, and then everyone appreciates so much. Oh, this is such a great service. So you can understand the difference between the spiritual knowledge and material knowledge. Think about it. Which is the root element out of five ingredients of avidya? Avidya. So it's very simple. If I don't forget who I am, I will not identify with anything which I am not. पहले भूलना पड़ेगा ना. First I have to forget that who I am, and then only I can be convinced to identify with something which I am not. So that is called avidya. Okay. So here I will have more time for questions also. If you are free to ask questions through chat, and I'll be trying to answer. It's not a one thing also I would like to say before ending. You see, in Bhagavatam we hear that such basic questions are asked again and again by very highly elevated Mahabhagavatas. Why? It because these questions are actually very important. And after this class, you won't ask this question from anyone, and nobody will be answering these questions as well, because you not going to ask these questions. Are you able to follow what I'm trying to say? You are thinking about avidya and all those things because you are in this discussion. Such discussions don't happen after this class, and such discussions purify us. So the more we discuss it, the more we become purified, and anyone who hears it will also become purified. So thank you for giving your time again. Oh, again, one more question. Why do we discern the presence of Krishna in our life? Discern. Why do we discern the presence of Krishna in our life? Discern means to notice, is it not? Discern means to notice. I don't understand the meaning of your question, because in that sense it means differently. So frame a question again, and then we'll meet tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Uh, Once again,